On Sunday, May 17th, I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning and got to see this. My parents weren't done packing everything up, and though the ceremony actually started at 8, I had to be on campus at 7 with all the other graduates. So my Aunt Pam and I went on ahead without them. I ran into an old classmate and we walked to the quad together, where they were serving the students and faculty coffee and donuts. Lots and lots of donuts. Then I met up with Katie, and pretty soon the people in charge were lining us up to start heading over to the giant commencement tent. Our school organizes us all by collegium, so Katie and I were next to each other. And as is Presbyterian tradition, there were bagpipes.
We're finally walking! Yay! They're going very slowly.
I had been dreading this walk, having watched it from the sidelines 2 years in a row. I'd always thought it looked like a long and unpleasant walk given the distance, which really isn't very far, but it's just so many people walking all together, and how are all these people going to seriously walk from the quad to Kappa Field without messing something up? But I'd been worrying over nothing. It went by really quickly, actually. The worst part was when we were standing out in the sun, waiting for the congestion at the front of the line to clear up. Pro tip for graduating outside in the summer: wear clothes you don't mind sweating in. And by sweating, I mean being drenched in sweat. Something funny about graduation videos or watching videos of an event you were a part of is watching yourself in the video. The people operating the cameras have no idea who you are or who any of us are. And it was weird to go back over the video of the ceremony and see how often Katie and I are shown for 2 seconds before the next cut. And that's not to say that I think the camera people were biased against either one of us, because that would be ridiculous. How could they possibly know that we were worth portraying in the video? But at the same time, I feel like, how could they just not tell how great I am just by looking at me? Do they not feel my supernatural pull of awesomeness? Moving on. So since we were graduating one right after the other, Katie and I decided to walk across the stage together. Sort of.
Sarah Evelyn Richardson with high honors.
Given that they mispronounced my name, that high five was definitely the most vivid moment of the ceremony for me. And I have a feeling that I'm always going to remember that high five. When it happened, I didn't feel the omnipresent heat or anxiety or boredom from the long speeches. I just felt joyful. Not just because I was proud of my achievement, which I am, but because I sort of realized when I walked up the stairs that I had found what I've always wanted: friends. Like genuine friends. Friends who care enough about me to get up at 6 in the morning so that they can get a good seat for the ceremony, and who wanted to high-five me on the stage. I was pretty miserable in high school, and I'm pretty open about that. While I came away with a lot of high-quality acquaintances, I never had a group of close friends. It's not that I hate anyone I went to high school with, or that I think they're awful people. I think very much the opposite, actually. It's just that I was almost always by myself in one way or another. I'm just really grateful that I'm not anymore. After the ceremony, we did some socializing, I picked up my diploma, and then we went back to the apartment, changed, and headed out to Ybor, which had a super fancy looking McDonald's just off the highway, but we actually ate lunch at the Columbia, which is the oldest restaurant in Florida and is so big it takes up an entire block. We got to eat in a small room that had a sort of Don Quixote theme and a really fancy chandelier lamp thing. In search of the bathroom, we also found this weird room filled with portraits of couples in royal clothes, one of which looked a lot like the dress from the Labyrinth. And the food was fantastic. I mean, the guy came in and poured fire out of a gravy boat. How cool is that? There was also sangria and ropa vieja and Cuban sandwiches and this really yummy chocolate cake I shared with Paige. I know that Americans kind of focus on quick dining, but there's something to be said about going out to a sit-down restaurant with people you like and spending an hour or two just dining. That is to say, it's nice to share a meal with people you love and know that there's nothing pulling you back outside. No deadline, no schedule, just allowing yourself to enjoy the time you're taking. Just make sure you tip well afterwards. Then we drove to IKEA, which is so huge that it could probably fit 4 Columbias inside of it. But they make it rather difficult for you to get lost because there are arrows that remind you every few yards of which direction you're supposed to be heading in. We all had a good time walking around, looking at all the rooms, and resting on various furniture items because of all the food we ate. My dad looks like he could sit in that chair forever. Then it was time to say goodbye to my parents and my brother and my aunt, and that was kind of sad, but I was also very happy that they had come, and that this really busy day had been so great. Then we drove back home, which was a bit stressful given the weather, and then Katie came over. She's actually going to graduate school, so it's going to be a while before we're all together again, but I'm glad we got to hang out one last time. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not proud of my diploma, or that the work I've done to earn it was wasted, or that my education wasn't worthwhile. But I'm also not going to pretend that it's the most important thing that anyone can ever do in their life, which is a sentiment I hear a lot around graduation time. Yes, education is important, but higher education isn't some litmus test for whether you're a good person or not. Because that means that the people who don't do this thing where they sit in the heat and swim in an ocean of their own sweat for 3 hours are somehow lesser than you. And that's just stupid. So to those of you starting school in the fall, whether it's for the first time or the 12th time, work hard and don't lose yourself. I'm just glad I won't be joining you. And to all of those who won't be starting school in the fall, have a great summer. Thanks for listening. The Princess will see you next Wednesday.